Okay, guys, so here we go with a look at Ripple to the dollar. This was a lot of votes came through for this here on the polling. So now this is a tricky one, right? So we can here I'm on Bitfinex looking at the whole collapse. I tell you, can we get a count on that? Yeah. I don't know that it matters. I really don't know that we need to go through all of that. We've got a contender down here for a pivot. It's technical. This is a little bit of a educated guesstimate here. This is a bit. It's in the realm for a front run. You'd like to see it a little closer here, but there's enough here to think. So if I just go back, let's see here. We got to go back. Let's go back to the last one before we come down here. So here I'm using this pivot, right? So we were just kind of got to pick something here. That's the last one. So do you see this? Remember they like this pattern here where we get the alternating swings and then we pull from there. We come to the 50. Well, we're a few ticks shy of it here. So we get this zone down here. It looks fatter down here, but it encompasses all of this action down here. So we've got all of this as a good baseline here. Seems like a reasonable spot here based on this price action here. The fact that we come from this 50, this front run, assuming that's what we're seeing here, right to the first algo target, and we hit it 1, 2, 3. This looks like a good base of support. So I think until proven otherwise, there's a reasonable case here that we're starting in something new, anticipating that if that 4 is going to hold, we'd come up for this 5 and we'd have our one wave off of the low. Now we've seen some false breaks, certainly with Ripple before. This is, quite a rip and failure from this low. So I think there's enough to be interested here to where, let's see, there's a 4. Let's go down to the hourly. So a decent 1, 2. So just using this low here. So we're deep. We go to the 786. The nice ABC structure is there. Then I get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm fairly solid here on this 3. So and just anticipating as to where we might be going, pulling from my 2 low. Just standard stuff. What do we do? Right to the golden zone. So that while it's deep, the fact that we come golden zone and then we pause here shouldn't be a huge surprise. So 4 up we go. So I mean, no reason to assume that this isn't going to continue. So I've got a nice little 1, 2 getting started here. So you can just throw some labels on this. Looks like a 1, 2. Well, that could be the 3, 4 here, but let's not assume that until we measure it. So let's open that up. Yeah, it looks funny. That was very similar to what we're seeing in EOS. So here's let's do it this way. 1, 2. So we get the 272. All right, it seems if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be less likely to fit with this count, unless it were the one wave and we're going to get a bigger extension here. So you'd prefer for this to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 3 going in here. If so, maybe if we've got the legs here, we can get up to the 2618, good extreme for the 1, 2. If I recall, this 1, 2 was technical as well. So zoom in here. So from this low, got to get right on it. All right, so here's our sweet spot for our 2 between the 50 and the 618. So a couple of wicks through the 50, but then pretty good rip right to second target. We're through third. The ABC here looks solid. So just same thing, guys. Every time, every chart, always done the same way. So we'd have to get. We've ripped all the way to second. So with this, we need to get our 200 on there. See how that looks. So pretty good look at it here. So that's a reasonable contender for the 1, 2. For the 3, we'd be looking for the 4 to retrace. Median line's a good, reasonable spot to be looking for that. Now, we don't know if we've got that pivot high in here just yet, but it's a contender. So just, again, same thing every time, right? So here we've come down to the 50. We get a little bounce. So it's not surprising that we've got this structure here, that we've come down and retraced to this little base, and now we seem to be kicking out of that, although it's a bit premature to call this in. And we don't have enough subdivision here really to say, well, there's the correction. So it would appear that perhaps we've got just Jesus, trading view. Come on, how many times do I have to click that? 1, 2, 3, something like that to kick up for the 5 to complete that impulse. Now, assuming we don't overlap the 1, right? We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But right now, so far, I've got the makings of what would appear to be an A wave. We'd be looking for a little more complexity there, some little more subdivision here. So I wouldn't be jumping on that myself on the assumption that the correction is done, even at a 30-minute. It's just up, down, right? So we have a pump up and we come right back to where we started. So I wouldn't, that's not enough for me to want to chase that long. I'd wait for it myself. If I can come down here, something a little more like this, give me a little more subdivision. Maybe we catch it that way. Then we'd have a completed impulse there. Well, maybe not. So let's look at it here. So if this is 1, 2, if this is going to be my 3, so let me change that degree. Let's get that up. Okay, so if that's 3, 4, this, well, unless we're going to have a truncated 5, we're going to need to see a bigger kick here in the second. So up to this level might be the way we're looking. So now looking at that there, so it doesn't quite fit the way you'd hope based on what we're seeing there. So you keep a little perspective here. Let's pull this off here so we can see a little bit better. 1, 2, 3, 4. So could there be something we're missing? 1, 2. Yeah, this looks solid enough here as the major correction relative to this 2. Now, granted, it's more complex and takes longer in time, but I think I wouldn't be moving off of this as the 4 just yet unless this completely breaks down, and we're going to come down deeper here. Because right now this looks like we could have an ABC, so I don't want to assume anything. So even if we do come up here and get this, well, that's not far enough. We're going to need that second or even the 3rd target here. Now keep in mind here that there's an algorithm that's a buyer here with this as its target. Now that would fit better, but that would mean we're going to have a pretty good rip in the 5 to get up to that second target, to get up here. Symmetry looks a bit off there. So I think this is it's a hurry up and wait here. First, I want to see how much complexity is in this correction here. Right now, I just don't think it's ripe. A couple of things, obvious spots that I'd be looking for. Potentially some support here. So I don't know that I'd be chasing that long there. Right? I mean, it's tempting to want to just buy everything in crypto right now, but you got to be selective here, right? You got, we all have only a certain amount of capital here. Is this good enough? Right? I mean, I like Ripple. I mean, it moves when it goes, but it's a little bit. I wouldn't call it my favorite. It's tradable. I've made money in here before. I typically will trade it against Bitcoin. But this 1, 2, 3, 4 into the golden zone, I think we're okay to lean into this as our 4 until proven otherwise. But this, the market's got to reveal itself a bit more. How strong are we here? Because, putting that all back into the context here, you come back out to this, we've seen too many false breaks, right? Just too many rips that failed. In Ripple, right? So here, rip that fails, rip here that fails. We've seen this before, right? Each of these have been these pumps, and this looks much like this. So I want to see more out of Ripple here before I'm getting aggressive on the long side. I wouldn't short it, but it's just not good enough for me, right? This is just. I know a lot of people really, really bullish on this project, but I just would be more selective here based on history and the fact that the symmetry here is a little bit suspect here. So we come up here and give me that 5. Now the next 50, I'm much more comfortable with that. That I think looks better to me than trying to guess where we are here in this little pivot here. Can we get an extension in the 5? Do you want to trade on the idea that we're going to require an extension in the 5? Yeah, I don't. So I'll let this complete here. Give me a clear impulse. I'll take the first retrace and then I'll get aggressive. All right, just my take on it, guys. All right, there you go. Back with